My grandmother was watching in the same dining room, Love of Life. Love of Life, the soap opera was on. And she was watching her stories. And I came out and I was towel drying my hair. And when I pulled the towel down, there was a man sitting at the dining room table who like looked back at me and smiled, and poof, he was gone. So he was there and then he wasn't there. And I was like, whoa. And my grandma looked at me, she goes, what? I go, there was a man sitting there. She goes, describe him. And I was like, well, he kind of looked like Uncle Jakey, which was my oldest uncle. I go, but he had more hair and a space between his teeth. And she goes, that's your grandfather. That's his chair. He's watching my stories with me. And she turned her back to me and went back to watching what she was watching. That's the family I grew up in. It wasn't uncommon for them to acknowledge something. I thought it was normal.
Cawfee Talk. Welcome back to Cawfee Talk, everyone, where the coffee is strong, the talk is real, and today's guest is completely iconic to me. We know we love talking about nostalgia and all things that we love to remember. And a fun fact, in the 90s, not my 90s, in the 90s, I got a lot of panic and anxiety around certain subjects, particularly in the matter of death and people passing. And I put on my TV one day and I saw this man who brought so much peace to me because of his authenticity. And now, fast forward 25 years later to age myself, sitting next to me, the man didn't age, John Edward, crossing over, psychic medium. Hi.
Hello. I mean, hello. Of all places that we're going to meet, we're both East Coasters, and here we are in LA.
In Los Angeles. It's like, the guy from Long Island, he's here. And first of all, the thing that I loved that connected us the most was being Italian. Mm-hmm. And that was something I did not know. And the minute I've talked about these videos endlessly. I picked up the phone one day, grabbed the phone, said these are words and phrases I heard growing up in my New York Italian neighborhood. And the videos went wild. And then all of a sudden I see follow Tara jokes. And it was I was like, oh my God, somebody who's catfishing John Edward. Somebody's pretending to be John Edward is telling people to follow me. And then I clicked and it was really you.
It was really me.
And I was like, oh my God. And then we ended up meeting and you ended up telling me about your Italian upbringing, which I would love for you.
Sure. Well, when I first heard your video, I was like, wait, I think we're related.
I love that.
And then you did another one. It was a follow-up. I'm like, okay, now I'm pretty positive. Not only are we related, but I think we lived in the same house, because some of the phrases were legitimately right out of my mm-hmm. experience. I had the same exact experience and phrases, and it made me feel connected. I was like I miss that part of my life. I miss my mom. I miss my grandmother. And you were delivering them in a, hey, come share this nostalgic vibe with me.
Which was such a, to me, I was like, wow, this guy has gifted this to so many people. And when I first met you, I'll never forget, I came to see you. I was a believer before, but walked
in Jersey, right?
In Jersey.
Yep.
I walked out of there, never more a believer in my life. And I remember you said to me, oh my God, can I hug you? You've brought back so much for me. And I'm like, this is a man who literally brings back so much for so many people, to think that. And then that was really the message. And that's why I kept doing them, because it was really hard to do them as a comic. And I talk about this because I was like, there's nothing funny. Why are people following me? I didn't understand the relatability factor.
Oh, it's highly relatable.
Thank you for reminding me of home, and thank you and then that to me was like, oh, that's why I'm here.
I remember in one of your videos, you were like, oh my God, what are you, a big jooch? And I was like, oh my God, I haven't heard that in forever. Because when I was 16, Fantasia was released at Radio City Music Hall. And my mom said, I want to go see it. I was like, okay. So we went to go see Fantasia. But at the same time, the rights to Winnie the Pooh got reverted back to Disney. So in the basement, the lower level of Radio City Music Hall, mm-hmm. there were hundreds of sizes of different Winnie the Pooh and characters. And that was my favorite character as a kid.
Yeah.
So I looked over at my mother and she's like, what? I was like, she's like, you want me to buy you? You're a 16-year-old guy that wants a Winnie the Pooh? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my God, you big jooch. But she bought it for me. She bought me the Winnie the Pooh.
I love it.
And then 3 years later, when she passed, I buried her with it.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's... And
Well,
the
that took
word,
a turn, right?
Right,
It wasn't so
right,
funny, but it's
right. No, I was like, oh, but it's those things, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you remember the Winnie the Pooh, you remember, but you also remember that she called you a chooch, and it's
Yep.
like those things.
called me a lot of other things.
Yeah,
as
oh
well.
yeah, and that's the thing when I say them, and when I did the videos, some people would go, "Don't you have anything nice to say?" And I was like, "But here's the thing: a lot of these words were kind of said with love,
Right.
like." They have like negative connotations, but you really only called somebody like oh, come on, stop being you're a little mamadel, you're a chooch, you're this. But it was said like you were close enough with the person that they could call you that.
Correct. Or you had the elder aunt
Yeah.
who wanted to get something across to somebody who maybe didn't understand the
Yes.
language.
So you,
And with a smile on their face, they'd be like, oh, look at the muerto over there.
yeah.
Like,
I love it. Yep. And you said that a lot of like the words and the stories that you have that you like grew up with, that with the Italian American side of you was like your aunt. That was all your mom's side of the family.
my mom's maiden name was Esposito.
Oh yeah, that's actually like one of like the top 5 I think Italian names.
So that side of the family is all Italian, and so I would skip out on Friday nights. Like instead of go hang out with my friends, I'd stay home with my grandmother when her sister Louise would come over. So I'd have like my own version of the Italian Golden Girls, and I would just sit there on Friday nights and Saturday nights playing Rummikub with the two of them, and just being entertained. It was the best entertainment. I only wish that we had cell phones back then. That I could have all of those memories.
I know.
Because there'd be like a good 20-minute conversation taking place. And then one of them would realize they were talking about 2 separate things. And how it lasted that long, I would just like sit there taking it all in. It was great. It was awesome.
There is something, so like I could look at pictures and you're right. I guess I never realized had we had video. I mean, I just recently, and probably because it's not so fresh anymore, so it's not so painful to talk about the people who have passed. I've started telling stories on stage about my grandmother and about the times because they're so funny now. And a lot of times and oftentimes at funerals as a comedic break, people do that, right? They reminisce and they tell these stories and we laugh about the person. But to do it on stage, I really had to be fully ready because I think people get a real sense for if you're healed and if you're not. And at the end of the day, I always want to be funny.
Right. But it's also your way of keeping them present.
Right.
I was doing an event on Long Island, and I had a number of people I passed, and a gentleman was dragged to the event. And at the end of the event, he came up to me and he said, I really didn't want to be here. He goes, my wife, whatever, dragged me here. He says, dude, I didn't realize you were so funny. And I was like, oh, I don't mean to be funny. I go, it's just my sarcasm. He's like, well, it works. He goes, but you're really accurate. And I was like, well, it's kind of my job, right? I kind of have to do that, And then he says to me, but can I just give you like a little side note, like a little critique? And I was like, yeah, sure. He goes, nobody cares about your family. You should just drop all that and just get to more readings. And I like looked at him and I said, well, sir, you should probably not come see me again. I said, because my family are my symbols, my stories that I pass on. It's how I'm actually relating information because I'm seeing certain things about them.
You actually know, yeah.
And while I'm sharing those stories, I'm actually giving you information. So I'm not just arbitrarily talking about my, my aunts, my uncles, or people I've crossed. I'm actually sharing what that story means to me. And in that moment, they're standing next to me on stage. They're with me while that's taking place because I'm keeping their memory alive. I was like, so yeah, that's not going to change.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of the gift, right? Like, that's how you're able to see things. Like you said, those are your symbols. I remember somebody once said, oh, yeah, I love when I saw John, when he does his, and people do this with comics, and I hate it, their skit or their that. And I'm like, no, that's not, the terminology right there is wrong.
I like when people say to me, oh my God, you guessed that good. I'm like, I'm like, guessed? I'm like, guessed is based on nothing.
No.
I'm like, this is based on actual communication.
And I guess, and listen, I have that old school, I don't trust anybody. I don't believe anything. I've gone to psychic, before. Of course, I've gone out of interest and like, I give nothing, right? I am one of those stone cold people. And I just never believe,
as you should be, until
right.
something actually comes up where you could validate it.
100%. And then I went to see you just to see you personally because we had connected on social media and we had bonded over being Italian. And I saw the mayhem that it was in a hotel. There was no organized seating. There was just hundreds of people coming in. People were moving, getting up, sitting. Nobody knew where anybody was. I just sat in the back and was like, he's not going to, there's no way to even know where anybody, you can't research one person in this place because so many people were coming, right? And the amount of things, and I'll never forget, it was like this one woman, you were like, you signed a paper today. And she's like, nobody knows. Like, no, but the person I'm with right now doesn't know I just signed this document. And he's like, your father knows. And I was like, it's just some of the things you do, it just goes, it doesn't have to be related to you personally. You just go, okay, there's, it's
right,
like.
But if it happens for her, right, and it's her dad that's coming through, then anybody that's in the room watching that whose dad passed, it's for them too.
Right. It's for all of us. And that's what I think when I said, like, when I had all this, because you get to that point where, like, I come from a big Italian family. Everybody had everybody young. So I had always kind of had my family members.
Right.
And then you get to this point where you're 20 and all of a sudden it's like, what do you mean my great-grandmother's going to die? She like people don't even have some of their grandparents. But I was one of those fortunate kids
cool. That's really cool.
who had, right, like I was 20 years old when she passed. And, so you get all these, like, questions and all these things, and it was really around the time that crossing over came. And now that was, I mean, you first, and we can talk about it, because you discovered your gift, and that was, can you, like, I mean,
Sure.
coming from, like,
So
Italian.
Let's go back a little
Yeah.
bit, because growing up, my family, mom's side,
Yes.
used to always have psychics come to the house. They were always very open to
I
the
think I
subject
remember
matter.
you saying this, yeah.
But I remember hearing other things like, oh, she's got a headache. And I'd be like, what does that mean? We'll talk about it later. No, I want to talk about it now. Was she have a brain tumor? What do you mean she got a headache? We'll talk about it later. And then she would wait till, like, somebody, would leave. My grandmother would go, somebody gave her the eyes. I'm like, somebody gave her the eyes? What do you mean they gave her the eyes? Yeah, she's like, they overlooked her. They gave her the Maloikia. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, what does that even mean?
I had that. I am dying.
Well, so wait. So then I find out, then my aunt comes over and she goes, so-and-so, you got to do the eyes for her. And I looked at my aunt, she's like, okay. And I'm like, wait, will you even know what this means? And then she goes, yeah. She's like, but we can't talk about it. I'm like, what do you mean we can't talk about it? I go, I want to learn how to do the eyes. So she goes, well, I can't teach you. I'm like, why can't you teach it? Why? Because I'm a kid? I can't learn the eyes because I'm a kid? She's like, no, I can only teach you on Christmas Eve at midnight. I'm like, you can only teach me on Christmas Eve at midnight? And they're like, yeah. So they thought I was going to forget. Well, guess what? Christmas Eve at midnight, I'm like, it's time. Teach me how to do the eyes. And my aunt did. Call me Christmas Eve at midnight this year. I'll teach you how to do the eyes.
Do not think I am not. I just did an entire podcast solo episode on the Malokia, and now
Really?
10 minutes
Stop.
ago.
It's in the air. It's in the air. And no, I don't do the eggs. We don't do it with the eggs.
No. I cannot. I literally was like, I'm just going to do an episode on the Malokia right now because I just wanted to talk about bad energy in general.
Did you talk about the yawning and the yawn effect?
No. I mean,
So allegedly, if somebody overlooks you, or gives you the eyes, you would do the eyes to break that energetic thing. So that's the supernatural, like, superstition, right? But now let's break it into this world, right? In my world, we're talking about energy. Mm-hmm. So I walked into your studio and I'm like, wow, this place has a really good vibe. And the producer said, oh, it's got a whole bunch of comedy. But guess what? It doesn't just feel comedy. It feels like we go deep. It feels in here like we can get into deep conversations.
Yeah.
It's a comfortable vibe. So I work in energy. So if we're looking at how do we protect our own energy, it is almost like some of the superstitions is based in energetic reality. So even though something might be superstitious, you don't want somebody to overlook you, but you can protect your energy. So you could say, you know what? I'm going to create healthy boundaries. I don't really like that person. I don't really like that in-law. I don't really like that person I work with. I don't really like dealing with that. So I'm now going to remove myself from that. I'm going to energetically remove myself and create a bubble of positivity so that nothing can permeate that. Basically, an energetic condom.
I just said this before you came.
Really?
You weren't even in the vicinity. I said I have now, as Italians, we have always been like family over everything and this and that. But I have come to a point where I can no longer give access to myself to others who have bad energy or who, And so I have protected myself from them. And, you know, it doesn't have to necessarily be the Malocchio, but I can say I don't want these people in my realm, even if they are family. And this was literally said, the door was locked downstairs. You couldn't even get through downstairs, up the stairs, through the door to even hear that ever being said.
So that means that that's in your energy, right? So we're still having this conversation.
my PETA is just sitting on the floor in shock right now. Yes.
So that was an early like, ooh, there's something cool and slightly supernatural as a child. And they had always had like psychics come to the house, but my dad was against the subject matter. Irish cop.
I remember Irish cop.
Irish cop, army guy.
Very matter of fact.
Yeah. This is not for boys. This is not for men. This is what the ladies do. And your mom's crazy. Like that kind of whatever. So it was keep my son away from that crap. Like I don't want him to be around that. And my mom did. I was away from it like most of my life. Then when they divorced, I moved into my grandmother's house.
How old were you then?
About 12.
Okay.
It's about 12, 11, 12. I think it was about 12. And they used to have psychics come. But I had adopted my father's like make fun of that. So when they would go into the room to have a reading, when my cousins or whoever would come out, I would be the ball buster. Mm-hmm. And I would be like, oh, let me guess. You're going to Florida. Yes. How did you know they said I was going to Florida? I'm like, because you live in New York. And people in New York go to Florida or Aruba if they're feeling froggy, right? I'm like, so come on. I'm like, that's where they're going. So I was that person. So I used to make fun of everybody. And then, long story short, there was a woman my mom met in Manhattan, had a reading with her. Her name is Lydia Clara, and she invited Lydia to come to the house to do a group, like a house party. Mm-hmm. And she said, sure, I'll come, under one condition. And my mom's like, anything. She goes, I need to meet your son. And my mom's like, you want to meet my son? And it was the oddest request. And she said, I need to meet your son. And my mom was like, sure. So she comes home and she goes, I'm going to need you to be around on this date in August. I was like, okay, why? What's happening? So she tells me, and I'm like, so what am I, like, bait for the lady? What exactly?
Right.
She's like, she was amazing. So if you just have to be polite, and I was somehow connected to the mm-hmm. reading, and it's a much bigger story. But I was like, yeah, sure, I'll be polite. So the lady comes that day, and if I had to, I don't know.
You were how old now?
15.
15, okay.
If I had to cast a person to play a psychic woman from New Jersey, I would have cast her. She had like very, very white skin, really, really heavy, articulate, like eye makeup, very, very black hair. And she had a strong composure. So now she's sitting at the dining room table. My grandmother's sitting here. She's like, ooh, I'm standing behind my grandmother. My mom's over there. My aunt's over here. I have a cousin over here. And there was a big, as many people would probably remember, 19-inch furniture RCA TV that took up the entire corner of the dining room. So the TV was kind of on. So I'm looking in that direction. Lydia's sitting over here. And in my mind, I'm like, if you're so psychic, you should ask me a question. If you're so psychic, you should this. If you're so psychic. And all of a sudden, as she's drinking her coffee, she goes, John, right? And I looked over and I went, yep. She goes, if you have a question that you would like to ask me, go ahead. I was like, no, I'm good. And in my head, I'm like, is she a mind reader? Like, how did she do that, right? So my mom thought that was weird. So she had 17 people that day that she read. She read 17 people on the list. It was like in order. So somewhere halfway through that, my grandmother went. My grandmother came out crying. So now I didn't really give a shit what she was doing.
Right.
This woman made my grandmother cry.
Right? Tough Italian.
Like, that is my grandmother.
Oh,
like she was like my second.
Yes.
She was like my savior, right? So I go, Grandma, why are you crying? And she's like, I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I'm happy. I'm like, yeah, okay, why are you crying? What did she say to you? She goes, she told me Tony was with me. I was like, Grandpa's dead. She's like, yes, I know. I was there when they put him in the ground. I'm like, what do you mean? What did she say to you exactly? Well, she told me Tony was standing next to me. And I was like, right. I'm like, Grandma, you were introduced to her as Mrs. Esposito. How big of a stretch do we think there is that there's not a Tony somewhere in your Esposito family? And my grandmother whipped around and looked at me and she goes, if you don't believe that your grandfather who loved me more than life itself isn't still with me from the afterlife, she goes, and that's a you problem, not a me problem. I was like, oh.
Whoa.
I'm like, okay.
That's a nerve you hit.
So then she says, how would she know that he was buried with a mandolin? And I was like, I didn't know he was buried with a mandolin. So I looked at my mom. I was like, was he buried with a mandolin? She was like, She went like that. I was like, okay. So now my analytical mind kicks in. I go to the list of the people that went to be read before her. Which one of these people could Lydia have extrapolated? Oh, yeah, this is how my brain works.
Yeah.
Which one of these people could this lady have extrapolated all that information from and then give it to the old lady when she comes upstairs, right? None of them. None of the people were relatives to us. They were like neighbors, friend of a friend. And then my cousin went. My cousin's 13 years older than I am, but she looked like she was like, my age.
Mm-hmm.
She came down, blown away. She's like, Johnny, you have no idea. This great lady, crazy. I'm like, oh, come on, not you too. It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like, seriously? And she goes, you got to go. I was like, I'm not going. I'm like, I'm not going to pay this woman money to make up a story. She's like, I'll pay for you to go. You have to go. And I like looked over at my mom like, can I go? And my mom looked at me. She goes, yeah, you can go as long as you treat her with respect. I went, oh, I'll treat her with respect. I'm just not going to help her like the rest of you. I went upstairs to the room. I sat opposite her. And I said, how does this work? And she says, can I hold on to your ring? I took off my high school ring. I handed it to her. She went like this, never looked at me again, did not look at me, and started spouting off information. She goes, you have highly evolved beings of white and gold light. And the reason why I came here today is to put you on your path. You are going to change the way millions of people look at my field. Now, she's not looking at me. And this is me. I'm like, this woman is bad fucking shit crazy. Like, she might as well have said, I parked my spaceship in your grandmother's backyard. I'll take you for a spin when we're done. But there was something commanding about how she delivered the information that made me like go like, okay. So, like if you ever see a kid playing bad violin or like they're playing an instrument, but not really great, but you have to be like, oh, okay, like good job, right? I was kind of putting myself in that mode like, oh, this woman really is crazy.
Right.
Like she's just nuts. So then she goes into the second part of the reading, which kind of made me go, whoa, because what she was describing applied. But then I thought, I can apply this to like 4 of the guys in high school with me right now. So she was 2 for 2.
Right.
The last part of the reading unnerved me to the point that I felt like I was violated. Like accurate beyond accurate, things that I would have had to have told her, outcomes to things that I didn't even know were happening. And it was like this entire world kind of just like exploded in front of me. And I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this, not even a little bit. I felt like I got robbed. How did this woman like walk around my life? How did she know stuff? Oh my God, she knows my mother. Is she gonna tell my mother what she just told me? All of this kind of made
15-year-old boy thoughts, yes.
Yeah, it made me very uncomfortable. And what I did was I went to the public library, and at 1985, the section was the occult, right? So it didn't sound like a good word. It had the word cult in it, right? So occult just means hidden knowledge, like dark, arcane, hidden knowledge, right? But it sounds like, ooh,
yeah,
the occult. So I was embarrassed to check the books out of the public library. So I would sit on the floor of the library, and I started reading everything that they had, because I was like, if you get robbed, you put an alarm system in. So I was looking for some type of how do I put the alarm system in?
Right. How do I
like did I let this woman into my life and do this?
Did I let the invader in to rob me? Yeah.
And here I'm reading all these books going, this isn't psychic, this is common sense. Like everybody does this. And I remember going to high school, and I was probably maybe like a month later, and I said to one of my friends, I'm like it's normal to see your dead grandfather, right? Like it's a normal thing to do that. And he looked at me and went, no. I'm like, you've never like hypothetically came out of the shower and like you walk out of the bathroom and your like dead grandfather sitting at the dining room table with your grandmother. Like that happens from time to time, right? Like they let you know that they're around. And he goes, no. He's like, why? Has it happened to you? And I went, yeah. And there was this one instance where I came out of the shower. I could tell you my grandmother was watching in the same dining room, Love of Life. Love of Life, the soap opera, was on. And she was watching her stories. And I came out and I was towel drying my hair. And when I pulled the towel down, there was a man sitting at the dining room table who like looked back at me and smiled, and poof, he was gone. So he was there and then he wasn't there. And I was like, whoa. And my grandma looked at me, she goes, what? I go, there was a man sitting there. She goes, describe him. And I was like, well, he kind of looked like Uncle Jakey, which was my oldest uncle. I go, but he had more hair and a space between his teeth. And she goes, that's your grandfather. That's his chair. He's watching his stories with my stories with me. And she turned her back to me and went back to watching what she was watching. That's the family I grew up in. It wasn't uncommon for them to acknowledge something. I thought it was normal. So my development was very, very quick once I had language to put it to.
Yeah, and that, I mean, it's like we just heard your first reading, which is like,
That was my first reading.
and then from there, is that kind of when you were like, this is my calling? Because I think, and I talk about this in every degree of life, like where we feel we're called to do something. And, you know, I've taken different paths to get to where I am. And
How about a quiet calling or a consistent calling? Because growing up the way that I grew up, if you're going to be the man, then you're going to be the provider, right? So you're going to have the job, and you're going to have the education, and you have to be better than the family that came before you. And you have to do, there were all these unconscious stereotypes that kind of were in front of me. And even though I wasn't as close to my dad, I had them from him as well. So I was college bound. I was, you know, a few credits short of a master's degree in healthcare and public administration, right? Public health. So all that, I worked in hospitals and healthcare. This was never going to be my job. This was something that I did because I could, and I could help people. It was never something that I wanted to be like occupation psychic. You know, like,
right.
It's never something that I wanted to do. But I shortly after that wanted to learn more. So I learned about astrology and numerology and psychometry and tarot cards and all of these different tools that you can like use to glean information or to use to help people on not a predictive level, but what is the archetype of the human condition? What are we evolving through? What is the lesson I'm supposed to be learning? That's what those tools are technically supposed to be used for. They've been bastardized over, you know, centuries to be predictive and to manipulate and do negative things with people. You know, oh, you've got a curse on you, give me $5,000 and put an onion in a shoe under your bed and you'll be fine. Like those stories are real. And
wait, that doesn't work?
doesn't work.
I got to get that onion out.
Not a good thing. But I remember after I explored every book that the Glen Cove Public Library had. I went to, at the time, it was called Walden Books, and it was in a shopping mall.
I remember Walden
And I went to the back of the store because, again, it was like the porn section back then. Like, it was never like front and center bookshelves.
Right.
I went to the back, and I was standing about 3 feet away from the shelf, and the shelf was like a Pan Am building. It literally did this, had that kind of curve, and a deck of tarot cards fell off of the shelf. Like, nobody was near it, by itself. Nobody else but me in the store, and the manager was in the middle of the store, and a tarot classic deck fell right off in front of me. And the manager turned and went, I guess you're supposed to buy those. And I did that. Went home, read the little pamphlet that comes with it. Following Sunday, my grandma's house. She had 11 kids. Those kids had kids. Those kids had kids. So you know what grandma's house was like on a Sunday. 20, 30 people. Easy.
Easy, right.
The kids table. 12, 20 people.
Right.
Easy.
Right. I was at the kids' table till I was like 22.
Yeah. Somebody had to die and move out.
Right.
And my cousin Florence came and she goes, hey, I hear you're like dabbling with like, you know, doing readings. I'm like, not really. I said, I'm just like studying some stuff and I'm interested. And she's like, well, read for me. So I read for her. And then she called me a week later. She goes, are you going to be at grandma's house again on Sunday? I go, well, being that I live here. So yes.
Yeah.
I go, why? She's like, I want you to do my cards again. I was like, Florence, I just did that. She's like, yeah, but everything you said happened. I was like, in a week? And she said, yeah. And she goes, can I bring a couple of friends? That's how it started.
That's how it started. Grandma's basement. Everything happens in grandma's house.
Yep.
And so, and coming like the Italian side, like growing up with the Italians, they were already so, I think we're so into like, as not trusting as we are, right? With like certain things, we're so in tune into this like other, you know, other worlds or this belief, like when somebody passes or they're with us, we all look for the signs, right? Like, so a big thing in my family.
Or the omens.
Right.
Oh, that's an omen.
Right. Oh, that's right.
It's like, what the hell is an omen?
For us, it's always like, and I think I've heard people ask you this before, but I'll say it for my audience. It's like, I'll see a number.
Right.
And I'll be like, well, my grandfather played the number 840. I was born at 4 pounds, 8 ounces. So that was always his thing. We're connected through, 804, 408. So whenever something happens, my flight, my boarding time, it was between this boarding time or that boarding time, but my boarding time would be 840. I picked that flight. Like I have this thing. It's like, I had the Roman numerals 840, that I wore on my neck for so long. And so for me, it's like people, I know that we desperately want to see those signs, right? Because there's, that you want the belief, right? We don't always have, a John Edward or anyone who.
And by the way, nobody needs a John Edward.
Right?
Nobody needs a medium for real.
Right? Oh, they go to them.
Right.
I mean, listen, it was wonderful to see, and for me, it's like, yes, I needed an invalidation, and people enduring grief need something, right?
Right. But what I always caution people is, grief is something that needs to be worked through internally, and it's an ongoing process. It doesn't just go away, right? Like, diabetes gets diagnosed. It doesn't really go away. It gets managed.
Right.
Grief gets diagnosed. It doesn't go away. It manages. And sometimes it has highs and it has lows. And we always have to kind of check our, grief sugar, right? We got to check the sugar. We got to make sure that it's okay. And we have to know when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate to do certain things, because there might be triggers. Like for me, I had a Saturday off and I was like, I'm gonna clean my office. I go start cleaning my office and I come across all these old VHS tapes. And I spent the entire day watching all these old fun family nostalgic, things. And it sounds nice, but it really put me in a bad spot. It didn't make me feel connected. It actually unplugged me from what I normally feel connected to and grounded me to their physical loss, to the sound of their voice, to their image, how they moved, how they spoke, how they interacted. I spent an afternoon like emotional and like crying. I was like, okay, so this is healthy. This is cathartic. I'm kind of moving through that. But it didn't shift. It kind of stayed with me. So I recognized I'm not the cemetery guy. I can't go to the cemetery. It makes me sad. I can't sit there and watch the old movies. At least at that point, I couldn't do it. I could probably do it now, but I couldn't do it then. It was still too close. And it anchored me to it kind of like brought me back. And if anybody ever saw Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve, there's a moment where he is back in time and he looks at a penny and it drags him out of that moment and brings him back to a current state. I had that feeling, except it was backwards in time. It took me backwards into a place of being sad. So everybody has to navigate grief differently. And when we talk about seeing those signs, we all have been into like a pizzeria. You walk into that pizzeria and there'll be a mural on the wall. And that mural is hand painted of the place that the heritage, if they're from Naples, if they're from Sicily, if they're whoever they're from. But when you walk in there, it's a reminder of where you come from. So when you see 804, it's a reminder of where you come from. And it should make you feel connected in that moment. So whether Grandpa is immediately connecting with you or you're reaching out and connecting with him, you're sharing a moment. Right. So if you send somebody a text, if they don't text you right back, you eventually know that you'll get a text. You'll get a thumbs up or you'll get a response. That's what, to me, I try to get people to do, is to recognize that we have to be part of that connection, part of that conversation. Don't wait for them just to do it. But we don't want to externalize our grief. We don't want to always go to a medium. A medium should only validate what you're already experiencing. Right.
And I feel too, but what you touched upon that's so important is that when people are grieving, like, usually people get swarmed in the beginning, right? And it's like, I always make a note, like when somebody loses somebody they love, I'm like, I'm going to do the check. I'm going to be around 2 weeks from now. I'm going to be around a month from now. I'm going to do the check-in when nobody else is.
The second year.
Yeah.
That's the biggest. If anybody's watching this and you know somebody that's going through the second year of loss, please reach out to them. Make sure you say the person's name. Make sure you ask them to tell them something positive. Hey, I was thinking about your husband today. I was thinking about you guys. Tell me like one of your most fun moments about when you traveled or, when you argued. You would not be doing that person a disservice. You would not be rubbing their grief in their face. You would not make them relive something negative. You're going to actually get them to celebrate and maybe talk about something, because that first year of loss is like a coasting year, where we go from the first birthdays and holidays and anniversaries.
Dealing with my friends, like I was like, her birthday's coming up, like, right.
But that second year is really, and if you are the person that's going through that second year of loss, give yourself that sacred space and grace to know there's nothing wrong with you. You're not crazy. And if you have that person, reach out to them and be like, hey, can I talk to you about my mom? I'm kind of missing her today. But when we get to that second year of loss, people go to a place of, I don't want to bother anybody. They were with me for like 3 months as I did that. I can't ask them. I can't put them out. They've got their own problems.
What do you think the biggest misconception is around like what you do, like psych? Because there's people who I authentic as they come. You are just, to me, the realest deal. But there are people that either aren't.
Right.
Unfortunately. And there are people that are and that really that really are gifted and have put it into practice, right? It's like anything, like you said, I could be funny, but I had to put that into practice to get good at comedy.
Right.
It's like, what would you say the biggest misconceptions for people who are listening to? Because I know that a lot of times people come to you maybe at it's like they're desperate, right? Like they just dying for that, connection. Or what could you say to people, like,
So first
that.
and foremost, I always like to say, and I'll repeat it again, nobody needs a reading.
Right.
They need an understanding.
Right.
And if they have an understanding, then that brings them closer to their loved ones and friends.
Right.
And then a medium, if you have that opportunity with somebody who's legitimate, then they can just validate for you that
Mm-hmm.
your experience is actually what you're experiencing, or help you to develop what that is. So let's go on the attack, right? What the attacks are. Number one, it's against the Bible. People will say, oh my God, you can't dabble with that. That's evil. No, it's energy, right? So it's only evil if you label it as being evil. It's only evil if you label it as being religious. I don't. I feel like I'm painting a portrait of energy, and how that client decides to frame that portrait of energy is up to their belief system. Some people that I read are not Christian. Some people are Muslim or Jewish. Some people are agnostic. And now this is going to be opening up a channel for them to go become a seeker and an explorer to discover whatever it is that they're discovering. So people will come into this in a negative way because of religion, or they'll have a
Which
reading.
a lot of Italians, like we're very like spiritual and we believe in the Malocchio and this, but at the same time, it's like either not trusting or like it's against the religion, or
Right.
which is another big,
But we also, from a Catholic Italian standpoint, you pray to certain saints for certain intentions, right?
Yeah, Saint. If I lose something, I'm asking Saint Anthony.
Right, and how
praying
many
Saint
Saint
Anthony.
Josephs are upside down right now as
In
you're
people's
watching this,
backyards.
waiting for
Yeah,
the
for the
front
house-
yard.
the sale
Gotta
of
be
the
the front
house.
yard, right?
What?
It's supposed to be the front yard, right?
For the sale of the house?
I think so. And then you got to dig them up. Or if you remember back in the old newspaper days, when somebody would put an intention in, right? You prayed to a certain saint, then you were supposed to go print it in the paper so that, people would read it, so that they also would go do that, right? So all that energy is just a way of kind of like celebrating your own religious, spiritual braid. But religion is one way that people will come at this. I think that there are people that are just BS artists. Like they're just not legitimate and they're doing it for the wrong reasons. All you need to do is go look up my name on TikTok. You're going to find hundreds of cloned accounts.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I'll go live, and then the next thing I know, those people get activated. And even though I say it on all lives, I'm never going to DM you, right, for a reading, right? I'm never going to DM you. I'm never going to listen to the cadence of my speech. Do I sound like somebody that goes around going, oh, sweet spirit, I have a message for you, honey? That does not sound like me, right? So read, listen, spell, right? They spell incorrect. So you get those people who are like,
no, I love you because
grifters.
you're like, no, that's not what I mean. No, that's not what I mean. Like
Right.
you're not. It's not like, oh, I have this feeling. Like people will want it so bad they'll like try and make it them, and he's like, no, like that's not exact. That's not what I'm saying. Like you don't.
right.
People want you to play into them. Even it's almost like a Ouija board. It's like people want you to push the thing. He's like, no, that's not exactly what I
Right,
mean
that's
at
not what I'm
all.
saying.
It's
Right.
so legitimate what you're seeing and feeling.
Susan is never going to be Frank.
Right.
No matter how many times you want to say it. It's just never going to happen.
That's hilarious. I mean, it's sad because people want it, but I've been in the room where people have been like, well, that could be me. That could be me, but it's like a different state or a different thing. And it's like, no, it's not you.
No, that's not what I'm right. Or they're in a different section of the room, right? Because I
Yes.
get pulled.
Yeah.
So people have the religious issue that they come at it with. Then there's the people that are actually grifters. They got to be careful, right? So that's why validation of information is important. And then there are the people who actually have some ability, but maybe they haven't developed properly, or they don't really have the ethics and the responsibilities that should go with it. And they can inherently make it about them. So it becomes about them as opposed to the client. I don't want anything to be about me. I don't feel like I'm important in this. I'm just a bridge. I'm a phone, right? The phone isn't the conversation. The conversation is what happens over the phone. So for me, I don't feel like I have a gift. I have an ability, and that ability can create the opportunity for the connection. And that connection, that's a gift. But whether you have a dream of your grandmother and she comes through to you and you share it with the family, that's a gift. Or you come for a reading and grandma comes through and you share it with the family. Equally, that's the connection. The connection is the gift. But that gift starts here in the physical world, right? So it's got to be the communication that we have while we're here. And I think that so many times people don't do that because we stand on principle, we stand on respect. Oh, I'm not talking to that person. I'm older. She should come to me. Like all of those things that also can culturally kind of create, I know there's a lot of Italian families that it's like, those two sisters, they don't talk for 10 years. Why? We don't remember, but they don't talk for 10 years. And then something happens and those two sisters get reunited and it's like nothing ever took place. But you lost 10 years. Mm-hmm. You missed out on that. Mm-hmm. So communication is always important, whether it's in the physical body or not. And I just think people should be careful overall.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we gain perspective when we lose someone, right? And
True.
when it's like, whether it's like, oh, I have to just do what I want with my own life, or I shouldn't hold a grudge with someone, or I shouldn't do this. So I really think that in the biggest lesson I've learned, and as I get older, is that I will protect myself from the bad energy, and that I will make more of an effort with the people that I want to make an effort with, so that when that moment does happen where they're no longer in their life or I'm no longer in theirs because one of us has passed, that we kind of have that connection already. And I think it's kind of like the power of now, right? It's like, what we can do now to stay connected to people, what we could do now to feel better, what I will hold on to, whether it's the number 840 or a sign that I see, thought I had one last night, and just feel comfort in it. And I think that what you said is like, just remember that that's my connection. Remember that that's, me keeping that relationship alive with that person.
Food, communication, nostalgia.
Well, food's easy
love,
for Italians, right?
Like we were just talking a couple of nights ago, my cousin and I, we were talking about, she was like, oh, I want you to taste this. And she like dips a cracker in some type of honey and she goes, taste this. I was like, nah, I'm good. And she's like, no, I need you to taste this. And then I was like, no, I'm good. And then she hands it to my aunt. She goes, you taste it. So my aunt tasted it. She's like, doesn't it taste like the strudel that we make at Christmas? And I'm like, oh, I didn't like strudel at Christmas. And she was like, you didn't like it? I was like, no. She said, but you were the one who made it. Because I needed to be my grandmother's hands. She had arthritis. So I learned how to make her cookies. I learned how to make her meatballs. I learned how to make all the stuff, which now I've passed on to my son. So now he makes things the way my grandmother used to make it. So my grandmother stays alive through conversations. My grandma, she had the best phrases. I've got people who've never met her using her phrases. And I know that she's smiling like, you little son of a bitch. Like stuff that she would say, like, I had moved out of the house and I would come Sunday, right? You got to show up at Sunday. So I'm there.
I just did a whole podcast on Sunday dinners.
And she'll turn around and be like, you can go now. You put your 10 minutes in front of everybody. And I'd be like, Grandma. And she's like, it's okay. This one, he comes with snow in his pockets. He's got to go before it melts. Like,
oh, I love those. I do. And you've seen them where I do like my point of view. You have a New York Italian 80s mom, which you lived with. It's like just some of the things they would say. Yep. Yeah, like, I mean, it's.
Go see who wants you.
Yeah. Yeah, go see where you got to go, and like all these things. And what I loved about that, and when we talk about connection, is like we connected over the words. So many people now will be like, you're talking about my Black mother, you're talking about my Spanish mom, you're talking about this. And it's like just this constant reminder that we all want to be reminded of where we came from. We all want to be reminded of. And
validated from where we came from.
Which is the biggest thing.
And I think it's really important because sometimes we, if we're coming from a cultural standpoint, we stand on the principles of, well, we really can't talk negatively about that person because they're past now. And I'm like, but if living people who are still here had negative experiences with that person, your aunt, your uncle, your mother, your grandmother, whoever that might be, I think it's kind of important that you validate the living person who might have had trauma from that experience. Mm-hmm. And we just had a circumstance like in the last 48 hours where we were having a conversation and somebody was revealing like some of their personal stuff. And family members were like, yeah, but he was a really good guy. And I just sat there, just like shifted. I was like, okay, because people get rooted. So I think it's important to always
don't speak bad of the dead.
Always speak truth of the reality of the circumstance. And it doesn't mean that you're speaking negative of the person. You're speaking the reality of what that person went through.
Therapy for people, right? Because it's like, a lot of times, and we joke about it, and it really deserves to be its own skit of how we glorify people. It's like somebody can, they did this, they did that, they did this. So he did this, he's cheap, he's this, whatever they say before. And then the person is like, oh, what a good person,
but he was a good man.
Yeah, but he was a good man. He looked beautiful and he looks like he's sleeping. All the things we say around the just justifying this good thing. And it happened very recently in my family as well, where I said, but it's okay that, this person wasn't always good to you. And it's okay that that's, if you could still mourn the life of someone or the situation that has happened without over glorifying it, because then it kind of really negates your feelings
Right, but then you're asking
and your trauma.
But you're asking that person now to do a deep dive and look in the mirror and reflect on how does that affect them. And then sometimes when that person passes, they want to bury that trauma and not have to
Right.
unpack that without realizing that's now going to be generational trauma that's passed down to other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm living proof of that generational. Here's what generational trauma looks, guys. How do I look, guys? How does generational trauma look?
You wear it well.
Thank you. Can we see the tears? Okay. But yeah. So, I mean, which is, I think, again, like I always say, this podcast and most of my comedy and most of my social media, I should say, online presence is rooted in like my Italian roots and the nostalgia. But really everything we talk about right now is so, it's so ethnic almost. Like it's so.
Well, we're a divided society.
Yeah.
Right? We're living in a global, fractured, divided society where people are trying to find their place. So when you're like free falling energetically, you try to grab onto something that feels familiar, right? So you're gonna look to see who do I connect with, So if you're scrolling through TikTok and you're doom scrolling, and all of a sudden there's Tara, and Tara's talking about, Italian things that culturally are relevant. Yeah, you're gonna pull in the people like me, right? The people that identify with it, but you are gonna pull in those other people because they're gonna hear the essence of what you're saying about moms in the 80s, right? Spanish moms in the 80s, Chinese moms in the, whoever it is. And you're giving them a united feeling. And I know that where we're going is these communities. I feel like circles of community is really the important thing moving forward. And you're going to see people are going to be seeking that out. And what I'd love people to know is that you have your biological blood family, but then you also have your tribe. You have your family that you create, the family that you align with, the ones who look at you and go, I know that the rest of your family thinks you're batshit crazy right now because you're saying this, but I don't, and I agree with you. Just be that one person so that person goes, okay, I'm not crazy. Like all that's wrong.
I've said this, and I did a podcast episode of how I miss Sunday dinners and how they seem to be like this thing of the past. And people have reached out and said, but I lost my family or my family's moved or I don't have family. And I said, even to this day, I have a chosen family. I've had to create, whether it's been out of trauma or out of loss, out of just wanting my people, my tribe around me, my holiday table can look different than it did at my grandparents, where cousins and aunts and uncles who hated each other or didn't like each other were still in the same room all of the time, screaming. There was love there, no doubt, but there was also a lot of animosity and a lot of things. And the one, the black sheep sister and the one, like there were no families. I remember people go, oh, my dysfunctional family. I don't really know if is there distinct functional, dysfunctional. I think, I think we're all just doing the best we can. And something I have come to accept is, and I've talked about it on the podcast when I speak of my own parents, is I think they did the best they could.
That's what I say.
From where they came from.
Right. Parenting doesn't come in a manual.
Right.
We learn from above, and then we teach that below.
And because of maybe the way I grew up and my choice to not have children or to really wait. I mean, those eggs they're freezing at NYU, those eggs. But I always say it's like I probably have to work through what I think parenting looks like, what I think I would want, because I would want to break some of that generational trauma. At the same time, I know that I'm a 45-year-old woman set in her ways, and my kids may not escape some of the things that they're going to, it's going to be a hell of a lot better than it looked like when it was for me.
You take from that experience and you use it. Like, for example, I just launched a book called Chasing Evil, and it's co-written with an FBI agent called Robert Hilland. So we came out here to LA to launch it, right? We're doing podcasts, we're doing media, we're doing all these things. After a full day of media, I went home, and to celebrate, we had people come over. And I made big ziti, meatballs, Italian sausage, ribs. And everybody was like, oh, did you cater this? And I was like, no, I did not cater this. I made this. And the FBI guy, Bob's like, you actually made this? And I was like, yes, I actually made this. He's like, oh, you're a good cook. I go, well, my grandmother thanks you, right?
So you got that from them. We get the good things too.
And that was my celebration.
And it's also cathartic, right?
Yeah.
It is also something about like creating that and knowing that you got that from someone and making it and sharing it. Like you understand the joy she had doing it.
100%. And then when I take the bread to go taste it to make sure it's not missing anything, I hear her in the back of my head going, get your goddamn fingers out of the pot. Get your fingers out of the pot.
So you put it in the sauce or the gravy?
So most of my life,
I hate this question, by the way.
I'm breaking out into a sweat.
I have brain cells, and I hate that we even talk about it. But
okay, I'm addressing this directly to Julie Guy. Julie, I've been asked a question. I'm answering Tara's question. I grew up with it being referred to as gravy on Sunday when there was meat in the pot.
Okay.
But I lost a bet with Julie Guy, who's the DJ in Miami. And now I have to call it sauce. And I am a man of my word, Julie. I still will call it sauce.
So to me, it was like a marinara. Like it was just regular sauce.
Steak pizza, y'all.
Right. That's it. It just had sauce over pasta. That's what it was. But if it had meat, like we put like brajol and meatballs and sausage and spare rib and the golden my mother used to make, which was like this pig skin, and she put it in there, and it was really dark.
And it cooked all day, and it was really thick.
cooked all day, and it was thick, and it was almost like brownish red. That was our gravy, our Sunday gravy.
Yep.
And that's a very East Coast thing.
Yep.
So to me, I was like, oh no, this man says sauce. I thought we were so close. No,
no, it was gravy on Sundays.
Yes, it was gravy on Sundays. So gravy on Sundays. The book. Tell us about the book.
So I started in 1985, right? So in 1998, my office gets a phone call from an FBI agent who allegedly wanted assistance on a case. Fast forward, he comes. I give him some information that I get on the case. I wind up reading for him as well. His family comes through, and it forged a friendship and a working relationship for the last 25 years, which I never talked about. Like publicly, I never talked about it. And there's some pretty high profile cases in there. There's some stories in there. I say openly, I solve nothing, just like I can't fix somebody's grief. I was able to give him insights, send him on his path. He was very successful with the information that I gave him. And it's been a 3-decade kind of journey that Chasing Evil is actually the book. But he actually came to have me arrested. He came because he heard me on WPLJ radio in New York City. And he didn't like the fact that they had me on so often, and that he thought that it was a bit and that I was a con artist. So he brought me a real case and set me up in a real case with what he calls controlled evidence. He put other things that had nothing to do with it. To see if I would be able to, distinguish the difference, or if I would get pulled to one. And that was the beginning of our relationship. So what Lydia did.
So he set you up.
Yeah. Yeah.
He failed in that respect.
Well, in that capacity, I passed
succeeded.
his test.
Yeah.
I passed his test. In the same way I went to Lydia to disprove her.
Right.
He came to me. And I know that story, right? So when people get attack-oriented with me, I kind of understand, because I go, well, they don't know what they don't know. I didn't know what I didn't know until I knew it. Mm-hmm. He didn't know what he didn't know until I showed him. And then we've had this journey of like, I kind of felt like I was like AI for him. Like everything's AI today. Well, back then for him, it was JE. Well, can JE help with this? Can JE help with this? And I would give him, again, like with my regular clients, insights and guidance. And he was able to utilize that on some pretty high-profile cases. So it's the supernatural meets true crime.
Oh, I love this.
And it's the first time, Tara, that I've really publicly, talking about it. And the reason why now is that there's a really, really, really heavy case in the book. And when that case happened, I saw, he's become like a brother to me. And I saw how this, as a dad, this case kind of like cracked him a lot. And I said to him, there's a whole press conference going on. I said, Bob, if you need to talk about this now, I'll support you if you want me to do that. Because my kids were older and I'm not really, on TV. So I'm like, I was like out of the press. It was mostly because my kids
protective
were
of your own family.
And my whole thing was, I'll help you on your cases, but keep my name off of everything. And he used to laugh and go, no problem. I want to keep my job. So
right.
We had the greatest working relationship because I wasn't having to be involved. He didn't have to have me involved. And we worked really well together. And it gave me an exploration into what I can do, that I could stretch, my ability to stretch to be able to do this. So I was like, I never did that before. My dad was a New York City police officer. He said, don't embarrass me. Don't sully my name. Don't ever let me find out you're working with the police. I was like, oh no, I won't be working with the police. I want to work with the FBI. No.
Right, just the FBI.
But, and I say this openly, I didn't work for the FBI. I worked for the BOB because his name's Bob. So it's like, that's what I did. And I feel like the universe sent him in for me as a teacher because I apparently had some unhealed parental patriarchal trauma that I needed to work through. So the universe gave me what I needed. And honestly, I didn't even know I was doing that until we started working on this book. And as the teacher in me, kicked in, and I'm like looking at the stories, and I'm, what are my thoughts? And we're working with an editor and writer, and then she's asking us all these questions, and I'm like, whoa, this is like way deeper than I even realized while I was doing this. I was like, and then he had so there's a lot of self-transformation, and my biggest concern was, this isn't like anything I've done before. Like normally I do something, and this something is for you, and it helps you. And I didn't see this book as being, hey, let me show you how I can help you. To me, it felt more like, hey, look what I did. Look what I did. Look at me. Hey, look at me. And I don't like that.
No,
like,
I know you don't.
It makes me very uncomfortable. So
I know.
And somebody that is an amazing teacher, her name is Melanie Whitney. She's a mindful coach, an energetic ninja. Like, she's amazing. She and I were having a conversation, and she said, what is this discomfort that I'm feeling, about you from this book? And I was like, no, I'm good. And she's like, I was like, okay, here's the deal. Kind of feels a little flashy for me. I don't like to flash. And she said, I could see why you would feel that. She said, but we live in a very, very crazy society, a lot of information coming at people. And maybe this is going to be the thing that gets somebody's attention, who will learn about what you do, who can then be helped by what you have on Evolve. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I didn't think that could be something that could lead somebody to something else. Because I was stuck on the like, oh, this is going to make me uncomfortable.
Right. You were uncomfortable about it, like a hey, look at me thing.
Yeah.
Talk about Evolve.
So after I left television, I did 2 syndicated shows globally. And
Crossing Over.
I did Crossing Over.
Which is where I found you.
Then I did a
and
show
Oprah.
called... Yep. Then I did a show called Cross Country. And I jokingly refer to that as being the show that happened in a different timeline and a dimension, because nobody remembers that show. They just group it together with Crossing Over. So I did Crossing Over, and then Crossing Over 2.0 for, from 2000 to about 2008.
Okay.
So I had like a solid 8 years where I was kind of on television.
You were really in the public eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my son was born in 2002. My daughter was born in 2007. Now I felt like daddy needs to come out of the spotlight. Mm-hmm. But I really wanted to teach. And I knew that television was never going to let me teach. Because every time I tried to teach on shows, they would be like, no, the audience isn't going to want that. I'm like, how do you know the audience is not going to want that? Like, I know what the audience wants. They come see me, right? I know what they're resonating with. So I finally just said, thank you. This has been an amazing opportunity. Shout out to Teresa Patiri. And she made a joke and said, just get me in a budget. We have another 3 seasons we want to do. And I was like, no, I'm good here. And she was like, this better not be like a tactic, try to get more money in the budget. I'm like, no, it's not about money. It's legitimately like, I need to go teach. So in 2008, I left to launch online teaching. I was a wee bit early. So
yeah, really, right?
I was a wee bit early. Problem with being psychic, my timing was off.
Right. 12 years you needed.
Yep.
2020, you would have been, forget it.
Yep, I was a little bit early, but I'm right on time now. So for folks that are interested in anything that has to do with this world, right? Psychics, astrologer, meditation, mindfulness, grief, taking care of yourself. We're about ready to launch a channel called Nourish and a channel called Move. Yeah, so it's kind of like if you take like old school Twitter and you can create a profile and you can communicate with people, and then you have like Netflix Lite, where there's a couple of shows that you can watch that we've produced. And then we have mega live streams that happen. So people that do all different things. I looked at my world and said, how do I live my life? Who do I go to? What do I do? And I went to those people and I was like, hey, would you come play with me over here? Would you come do this? Would you come help people? And they all went, yes. And it's like this one-stop destination where people can evolve. And I say evolve is not a title, it's a command. So if folks want to check it out, they can go to evolveplusTV.com just to kind of look it up. And I hope they come in and enjoy.
Yeah. It's one of those things you keep seeing and you're like, I'm being called to this. Like there's a reason I keep seeing this evolve. And I was like, I wanted you to explain it better. Well,
what's really cool is that people say to me, oh my God, I miss Crossing Over. Would you do Crossing Over again? And I have to be honest and say, I can't do Crossing Over again. I'm not the same person. The guy that was on Crossing...
He's evolved.
Yeah.
He has evolved.
Exactly. So like the guy that did Crossing Over basically just did readings for people. This guy will still do the readings, but now we need to go deeper. I want to know at the intersection of you, me, and the universe, why today, why now, and what is the responsibility that I have towards you to help you on your path? Like, am I supposed to point you into the direction of like looking at your astrology because you've got a Saturn transit that's happening? Are you in a 5 numerological year where there's a lot of transformation and change? Or are you in need of like working with grief coaches where we have 2 grief people that are on
So
there?
it's like a full
Yeah.
profile. Like there's
It's like a spiritual sanctuary that I created. And I want people to know that it's void of politics and religion. And it's a place where you can get as much out of it as you want. It's kind of like a gym, like a spiritual gym. And it's community. We're building community.
which is the most important
So
thing.
anybody that's feeling like lonely and they don't have a person, the Evolve Plus community has been amazing at being that for everybody. It's kind of great. Like, you go on there and we have this amazing practitioner. Her name is Mariana Nardone. And she talks about all things like Ayurveda, and she talks about makeup, and she talks about skin. And she's like, and I've known her for a lot of years. And she was going live, I think, for the second time on the platform. And I was like, I want to just support her. I hope that people are going to be like open. And I go in there and I see that she is commanding a conversation on a live stream about really intimate female body issues. And I just was like, and this is where I leave. Like,
I'll see myself out. Thank you.
I'm going to leave now. I was
Right.
like, Mariana's got this. It's all good. She's talking about like what people can do. And I'm like, that's the level of trust that as a community they're built. I didn't do it. It's like, I kind of feel like Evolve Plus exists today because my grandmother taught me the value of what Sundays mean. My grandmother taught me I'm going to get emotional, how important it is. Tara, what are you, freaking Barbara Walters of...
What are you doing to me?
But it's true. She instilled like the importance of connection and family.
And we can find that anywhere, guys, especially if you're going through grief, or especially if you're just soul searching. We find ourselves in these moments where I constantly go, wait, who am I? What do I want? And it's okay to not know and be unsure, but it's also great to have tools and something like Evolve Plus that is it really, like you said, it's like just a plethora of like different, platforms. You go, okay, wait, this may be for me. I've even heard you talk or guide people. Like, I think you really need, and you'd recommend somebody else to them. And it's like, not that one thing it's not one Band-Aid, right? Like there's not one, quick fix or one fix really even for anything. And I do suggest, and you do still tour. I mean,
listen, I just said to my cousin Katrina, who actually like runs my world.
Yes,
I said to her,
I love her cat.
I kind of feel like I'm starting my first like share farewell tour. Like this is going to be my first farewell. I think she's on number 10, right? So this is my the beginning of my farewell tour. I'm still touring.
Okay, right.
Globally, right? So I'm looking forward to crossing the pond and going to UK and Europe next year, and I'm heading down to Australia at the end of 2025. And then there's a ton of dates that have been for 2026 that have been added.
Okay.
So people can find that at johnedward.net.
The Elton John Edward. The Elton John Edward. He had the farewell tour for like what seemed forever. But okay, so where can they see you?
So if they go to johnedward.net, that's where you can find out like about private readings. You can find out about Evolve Plus. You can find out about my tour schedule. But if people want to know about Evolve, they can go to evolveplustv.com. And that can show them a little bit of a sample about what's going on the platform.
And guys, I'm going to go on Evolve Plus TV, and we will have an open discussion on a private coffee talk, on a one-on-one, a lot about what John said, because I know we all need it. I really need the validation and the connection that I know a lot of you need as well. I will say this: there's nothing like seeing you in person,
thank you.
It's just the kind of peace and calm that makes you go, even if you're not there, if you're just there to be a believer or a disbeliever, because that's what a lot of people like to, even FBI agents you have a 25-year career with, they're trying to make a disbeliever out of you when they first meet you. It's what you do, I understand, is no longer a gift. The gift is the connection, but you are the perfect vessel. You really are just an Italian. You say gravy. You really are. It was just such a pleasure of having you come in.
This is awesome. I'm so happy.
And the book is coming out
The book is out September 2nd. So
September
it's called
2nd.
Chasing Evil.
Chasing Evil. And everything is on johnedward.net.
Edward.net. No S on Edward. JohnEdward.net.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
I've been in the room where people are like, John Edwards. And I'm like, not his name. Definitely not his name. Definitely not his name. I love you. Thank you for coming
Love you too.
in.
Thank you.
All right, guys, it's gravy. If you've gotten anything from this podcast, it's gravy. No. If you've gotten anything from this podcast, I hope it's just peace of mind and that you've been informed, right? I always say it's like the more I get to know things and know about other coping skills or tools I can have to get through life besides this podcast, I hope that you get that from John. It's such a gift that he came in. Guys, all my information, is on tarotjokes.com. Hope you have a great week.
Cawfee Talk.